silence and then pledge to the flag, please. So we're here again to do the work of James Island, and we hope that you will guide us in our endeavors to make sure that we are meeting the effort that we're supposed to be doing. In your son's name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, you do the Freedom of Information roll call, please.
Freedom of Information Act. In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of this meeting and its agenda were provided to all news media and persons requesting notification. Commissioner Brown-Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford? Here. Commissioner Engelmann? Here. Commissioner Laughlin?
Here.
Commissioner Platt?
Yeah.
Commissioner Poston?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson? Here.
Mr. Chairman, can I follow up on that?
Follow up.
Notice to,
Oh,
public meeting.
okay.
Thank you, I'll make it brief. In today's Postal Courier is a list of weekly meetings, beginning with the City of Charleston, Hotel Task Force, and the City of Charleston Design Board, and then the Charleston County Park and Recreation Headquarters. Goose Creek Architectural Review, Hollywood Public Hearing, Mount Pleasant, Board of Works, St. John's, but no James Island Public Service District, and I know this is not a major issue, but I've mentioned a few times before the years, and I don't want to sound critical of anyone, but I would imagine that perhaps an email communication is sent to the Postal Courier, but apparently that's not enough. And I'm wondering what, for example, the old town of Hollywood is doing to get their notice in that the James Island Public Service.
I don't know, but we'll find out.
You saw the Sunday?
I saw the Sunday, yeah.
Sunday.
So this is the weekly listing that he's talking about that the paper puts out.
I do like Mr. Simmons' thing about sending it to the churches, so they put it in their bulletin.
That's a good idea.
Yes, if I may, I completely agree. I think it's imperative that we do notify all citizens, all the taxpayers, of all meetings, because we do have multiple meetings often. They need to know what we're doing, because, it's said by citizens.
Okay, we'll find out, Ms. Black. Ms. Black, do we have any people signed up for oral and written petitions?
Yes. Elizabeth Singleton?
I don't have a petition, but I thought you said comments.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, just to inform you, all public service notices through Postal Courier is free in case you don't know, you just got to notify them, let them know. They'll be happy to put them in the newspaper. I've been watching this for years, and I keep saying, gee whiz, we've got a free service we don't even use, and we're the only one. As Mr. Platt read, everybody else is in there. It's posted. People know what's going on, to include the school districts, their various meetings, this, that, and the other. And it's a shame we're not using something for free, because a lot of us still get the newspaper. Also, I'm a little late, I was looking at your budget, and I'm a little disappointed too. Because I think you can do better, I think you should do better. Because it's a service to the residents. You're here by our courtesy. You're here to work for the people, the residents. It's not about how much you can pay for something. It's just like reading the little comment about wanting to sell the 2 lots on Bill's Bluff Road. We tried to get it for the new library, which would make it centrally located instead of deep in a neighborhood off the beaten path. But for somehow, you guys didn't want to do it. You wanted to do something else. I mean, you've got assets. You got that piece of land. A lot of people don't know it. It was a free It was a gift. And because it was a gift, it should have been going back to us and wanted to be a gift, especially when the library was concerned. This seems like it goes right back to dollars and cents. And it can't be. In order for James Island to grow, the community to grow, and for us to be cohesive, taking care of each other, because you were the first municipality or form of municipal government we had on James Island. And it was the residents, the local residents, who got together to put you where you are today, to help everyone, not just helping yourselves. And it seems like we need to go back to what your basic roots, what you are here for. Service, not profit. Because I see a lot of things on here that look more like profit than service. And we shouldn't be thinking like that. Because you're here to serve, not to make a profit on how much retirement money I'm gonna get at the end of my tour of duty, or how much time it takes. Let's give the administrative staff, let's let them work 4 days a week for their convenience and not for service of the people who pay their salary. It's just not fair. And I mean, you guys need to go back to thinking about reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joanne Dixon?
Two things, Max. In talking about what people are saying about information, you send out with bills, those of us that still get paper bills, a newsletter. And I don't know how it goes out to the email people when you talk about email. But those of us look at that because it has the scheduled holidays and we're forgetful of stuff. And there's always little news on it. And the little news is all so totally irrelevant to most of us. There's a food fair, there's a come see a fire truck, there's a did you know that? That's the perfect opportunity to put out interesting information. Do you know at our last commission meeting, we passed a resolution supporting the state bill. I just learned just now to move on with unincorporated people getting annexed into the town of James Island, something many of us are wanting for. I just found out about that now that you passed it. So I think that's a perfect opportunity for important information, or like you want to know ahead of time with the budget. Put it out. This is going to be the public hearing on the budget next meeting, folks. And you know, maybe do a little highlight in it. Make some of the significant things you're doing in that newsletter that you already put out, but it really doesn't have anything significant in it. That would be a wonderful way to just get some highlight points. You can call it just whatever they call PowerPoints, things, something like that. But that would be greatly appreciated if you all think about doing that. Thank you.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Are you saying you want to speak? State your name. Robert Schumeyer?
Well, I can currently set the record straight. The reason that I don't get up and tell you who I am and where I am, I've been coming here for almost 9 years now. And I was honored by the commission, and they said that I was an honorary commissioner number 8. So that's pretty much what I am. Now, what I'd like to say is that I thought that you had your budget all worked out. But now I see all these amendments to it and changes, and I realize that this is what we do now. But why didn't we do all of this in the very beginning? That's it.
Anybody else with what?
That's it.
Okay, this is a large group of new commissioners that are in effect this year. And we have been trying to follow the procedures, and I have had some concern about whether or not we've been doing it the way that we were supposed to. So back at the first of the year, we just asked Ms. Helen McFadden to be our parliamentary attorney, and to kind of clear the air a little bit, as well as to give us a report card on how we're doing. I asked her to come in tonight, spend a few minutes and tell us where we stand and how we're doing. So, Mr. Patton, if you take over, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had an opportunity to take a look at all of the agendas since January of this year and all of the minutes that had been prepared since January of this year. And in a nutshell, okay, you can take every action that you have attempted to take as reflected in the minutes. You have not stepped outside of the bounds of what you have the right to do. But in many instances, you have not exercised the appropriate procedure pursuant to the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. You don't have the right to vary that. You have the right to vary your own rules, but you must act in strict compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. And in many instances, your agenda did not give the public any notice of some of the motions that were actually adopted in the meeting. That's a violation of the statute. You don't have the right to do any act that you didn't give fair notice of. Then that's one item, okay? Some of the items you have adopted by motion need to be done as an ordinance and therefore must be done with 2 readings. There are many things that you have sought to do which are well within your power, but you've only voted on it one time, and it needs to be voted on twice in the form of an ordinance. Okay? The changes in your rules are an example of that. There are 3 or 4 changes in your rules, and your minutes reflect, as I remember it, and I may be slightly wrong on this, only one of those changes got 2 different readings on 2 separate days. Because you adopted your rules as an ordinance, for a permanent change in your rules, you need to actually change the ordinance. Lawyers call that the equal dignity rule. If you adopted it with 2 readings, in order to amend it, you have to give it 2 readings. Now, there's some things you can suspend for just that meeting, and you've done that a couple times. But not everything is of that character. When you change the terms of office, that's not something you can suspend the rules for. You really wanted to change the term of office for the balance of the period you were elected for. You didn't want to just change it for the meeting, which is what the motion to suspend the rules does. It changes it for the meeting. It doesn't change it permanently. That's the second item. Then you've been having solid work done in your committees, and that's good. You know, the committee system is designed to give you an opportunity for more time to chew the idea and work on it than you generally get in one of these meetings where you're trying to move through the business and get everybody home, okay? But when the committee does it, that's not doing it. It has to be done, most of the items have to be done at a commission meeting. Your committee meetings frequently look like the commission because frequently all of you are present. But only 3 of you have to be at any of these committee meetings, and the 4th person is the chair. So you could take those motions with less than a quorum of the full commission. But what the committee does is recommend to the full commission what action you want to take. And you certainly have the right to do everything I've read about, okay, in your minutes. But many of the things, it appears that they haven't been done past the committee level. They haven't come to the commission and been voted on in a scheduled commission meeting and appear on your commission agenda.
No, I got a question, can I ask a question?
That's up to the chair. I'll be glad to answer questions now or
While
later.
she's going, I would really like to have her get everything out in the public arena, and then from that point, then we can ask the questions to her.
Ellen, I'm 79 years old, I may not even remember that.
You go, girl.
I'm perfectly
So, if I got a
All right.
question, I need an answer.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
If I remember correctly, you came here and, you spent a lot of time going over that stuff. And some of the, what you're talking is, I haven't heard that at your other, session that you had with us. So these things that you are bringing up in the last year, it sounds like new information.
Well, I know that I talked with you about the freedom of information. The phrase I usually use, Ms. Brown, is it trumps
Brown
everything.
Crouch.
I'm sorry, Brown Cow. It trumps. If the Freedom of Information Act contains the answer to your question, you can't vary it. You can't use a rule book to vary it. You must follow the Freedom of Information Act. I know that I said that every time I had an opportunity, because I always do. It's a problem. Many people think that because they've adopted an authority for parliamentary procedure, that they can follow the authority. Well, they can't. Anytime, I remember the gentleman who used to sit here, who's no longer on your commission, going back and forth with me about this particular book says you resign to the chairman. And I kept saying to the gentleman, that's correct, that is what the book says. But this is South Carolina, and resignations are tendered to the governor of the state, because that's the law in South Carolina. It doesn't matter what this book says. If the law provides an answer to your question, that's the law, and you must follow it, like we have to follow the traffic regs.
Oh, I have no problem following the law, but what I'm saying is, what you're talking about, it sounds new to me.
Okay.
Go
Well,
ahead.
I had one other thing that I was asked to talk about, and that has to do with the notice requirements for various things that are contained in Title VI of the code. The two things that are definitely, and there are notice requirements contained in the Freedom of Information Act as well, but they're much shorter. And by way of example, there, the Freedom of Information Act requires 24 hours notice of the agenda and the posting of the agenda. You have chosen to give 36 hours. You have the right to do that. You don't have the right to go down to 18. But Title VI contains some statutory requirements that say that you must have 15 days notice before the adoption of your budget. Okay. You've given, I'm not sure how much notice of your public hearing here.
This is just the first one, there's also gonna be a second.
But one of them has to be in strict compliance with Title VI.
And that's 15 days, right?
It requires 15 days. The other thing, you've discussed millage increases. I don't know whether you've got one on the table or not. And again, Title VI says that you've got to give a minimum, an actual 10 days notice before adopting a millage increase. You can do more, but this is 15 days notice with public hearing and 10 days notice with public hearing on those two things. but you have to have strict compliance with the statutes for at least one of your public hearings if you want to do more than one. Now, what I said to your chair is, and I'll repeat it to you, every action you have taken as reflected in your minutes is something you have the right to do. The issue is whether you have done it in compliance with the Freedom of Information Act and the things that require 2 readings. Certain actions that you may wish to take have to be done by an ordinance. Not all of your actions, but a substantial number. So, that's my statement, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, since we're talking about FOIA and rules and the budget and so on like that, what are the state rules as far as divesting of property?
You have to do it by an ordinance. And each governmental entity has slightly different rules as to what kind of notice and whether or not they have to go through bids and that sort of thing. What you want to do is review the statutes that are applicable to public service districts. And you have general statutes applicable to you, that's Title VI usually. You have followed in the past some portions of Title V, because Title V was the only thing that existed in 1961 when you came into existence, instead of all the requirements that are now in Title IV that were not adopted until 1976 for counties. So you have traditionally, the advice of your attorneys from the 60s has been that you should comply with Title V. That's why you give 2 readings and your county council is given 3. Because they are following Title IV. You are following Title V. So if you wanted to sell property, you would look at what Title V says about the sale of property. And then you would also look to confirm that your specific statute, which has been amended at least twice, but it starts in 1961. Make sure that it doesn't say something else or say something that's inconsistent with that. Your 1961 statute as amended.
And then the other thing that came up at the last meeting was, we're talking about the mapping signs, street signs.
Well, your statute, your 1961 statute makes that a duty and responsibility of the public service commission.
No, it does not. It says we may do it. It doesn't say we must do it.
Well, I would argue that you're gonna be responsible for it, even if you delegate it to someone else. And so if you choose to delegate it to someone else or some other entity, have that carefully designed so that either you get an indemnification from the other entity. Don't just do it without making sure that you're still protected.
And that's gonna have to be by ordinance too, to do it?
Well, the general way that 2 governmental entities interact is either by a contract between the 2 of them or by adopting matching ordinances. You have to look at every one. The General Assembly decided that when municipalities want to give up the requirement that they run their own elections to the county election commission in order to save money, and save the training time that's involved there. That both groups, both the municipality and the county, have to act by ordinance to make an agreement to do that. So you need to look at whether the General Assembly has given you the answer to that question. But
You
the
know,
General
of course, you're
Assembly,
gonna get some phone calls.
well, I mean, I apologize for not being able to hear every question, okay? I'm giving you an example. And so what happens when a municipality wants to give up its election duties, they give an ordinance 2 readings, and then the county gives an ordinance 3 readings. And if they don't agree on how they're going to devolve the duty from the municipality to the county, it doesn't happen. They have to have an agreement, and they both have to act by ordinance to accomplish that. And the General Assembly specifically said that, because the General Assembly didn't want elections to fall in a pot that has no bottom. I mean, they wanted everybody to know who was gonna be responsible, how it was still gonna get paid for, and when it was gonna happen. So, they prescribed exactly how it was gonna happen.
The one thing that concerns me about the sign, and I really don't have an issue with, do we do it, does the town do it? But my thing is, I think somewhere, because it's all created in the legislature, is that it needs to be written in black and white, because, okay, say the town takes over the sign, like I said, I don't have a problem with either one, but what if someone goes in after dark of that particular day and steals a stop sign? So somebody comes through at night, they run the stop sign and hit a car and kill someone. Basically, to me, we're still liable for it, even though we have nothing to do with it, because we've given that service over to the town. And that is a concern to me, and it happens all the time.
Okay.
We don't do stop signs.
You just do street signs?
The county does stop signs.
The
Not
town
really.
does,
Town
the town.
does, okay. You never know who's doing what.
But apparently, we got a letter from the county saying they've been doing our signs and didn't know when we were doing it. So,
Well, I mean, some of the 911 legislation changed who was responsible for some of these things. And again, that's a question of take a look at your statute and the 911 statute that has to do with addresses for emergency services and what you want as an outcome. Because you don't want to leave the 911 system hanging in some fashion. You've got to be in compliance with that.
Mr. Pat, you have any questions? Mr. Pat?
No.
You have any questions?
no, I just wanted you to know that it's always trying to come to me, so. So, if you're gonna make motions, and it's on, you have to have that motion on the agenda, or it just says, like tonight, we're gonna have budget.
Fair notice that a reasonable person would believe that those kinds of motions would be adopted. You don't have to have every motion, because you can't anticipate
Yeah.
possible amendments. Okay, so, but it's fair notice to the public.
Well, one of our problems is, we don't get the agenda or anything till Thursday or Friday. And you might look at what's on there, like you just didn't get this budget until last week. You had to sit there and pour through the budget, look through it, and we didn't have enough, so by the time I decided I needed to do something, it was this weekend.
Well,
So-
and you have on today's agenda, an ordinance to adopt a budget. Okay, so there's fair notice that the budget is to be considered this evening. And to parliamentarian, that includes amendments, if amendments are made and adopted.
I did not know about the Title IV. I knew 5 and 6, but I didn't know that Title IV also had to do with the public service districts.
It doesn't, in general.
But,
In general, it doesn't. But there are some things in there.
and is that from a county perspective? Okay.
Title IV is home rule for counties.
Okay, because I knew 5 and 6, so I didn't know.
Problem with some of that is Charleston had home rule before home rule, as did Oree and Hoover and Greenville and Spartanburg. And some of their powers are different because they predate 1976. The classic difference is Oree County and Charleston County both have police departments. The sheriff of those two counties is a court functionary who operates the jail because they had countywide police before 1976.
And that's why they got the elections for sheriff.
Yeah, I mean, but all Sheriff Cannon's powers are primarily restricted to running the jail and serving court papers. And you will have a sheriff indefinitely because that's in the state constitution. You can't eliminate it. But the General Assembly moved most of the policing to the Charleston County Police Department. So there are some things that are not the same everywhere.
Charleston County Sheriff's Office.
Right,
Not-
she just called it
not the
department,
city of
but she didn't mean
Charleston.
city of Charleston Police. She's used the term department on the sheriff's office.
Yeah, you've got countywide police too.
You can't line it the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, there's the city of Charleston Police Department, and then you've got Charleston County Sheriff's Office that covers Charleston County, just down
Yeah, but
here.
you've also got a Charleston County Police Department unless it's been abolished.
It
It was abolished,
It was abolished?
like 20 years ago.
Yeah, we don't have them. There's just
And
those
Horry
two.
County still has that.
Right.
Yeah, there's just those two, just the city of Charleston, Charleston County Sheriff's Office.
But there are some unusual aspects to even home rule for the bigger counties because their home rule predates 1776.
Well, this gentleman here works for Al.
You can't.
Yeah, and everybody has a sheriff. All 46 of us have sheriffs, thanks to the Constitution. That can't be bigger. But some of us also have a countywide police department.
They are the county-wide police.
After it was abolished, this lady says 20 years ago, but Charleston used to have them.
Yeah.
Don't call them the police department, though, they don't like that at all. It's the Sheriff's Office.
We've got the real police and the rabbit police.
Yeah. Do any of the commissioners have any more questions for Mr. Beck?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. You know that you have created an awful lot of homework for us. So, you'll be hearing from me about, I guess, calling a special meeting so that we can get these second readings done before we go into the new fiscal year, starting on July the 1st. Okay, motion to approve minutes.
There was some questioning about the minutes. I spoke with Kathy that
Right.
had had her down for making several motions and she didn't.
Ms. White, made some
Right.
adjustments and, on your paperwork in front of you, there were some modified minutes that were basically swapping the dates. Am I saying that right?
No, well, I don't know, they stuck my motions on the wrong day, but
Well,
they fixed it, so
The
we're
new,
good.
the new ones that you had in front of you when we got here. Had the correct
I know that it
information.
was supposed to be, yes, amending the minutes that we had through, said, yeah, it was supposed to be, she emailed back and said that the date would be adjusted, that if everything was done correctly.
I think they look good.
They have draft on the bottom of it. Anyway, regular commission minute, meeting for April 22nd.
I have some correction.
On the 22nd,
Yes,
okay.
the regular commission meeting. Ms. Brown Crouch, and that Ms. Brown Crouch asked Mr. Wise when he would respond to the chief, request. Mr. Wise stated he was gonna do it the next day. I want that in the minute. Mr. Wise stated he was going to respond the next day.
Isn't that in there?
No, it's not in.
Don't you need a second on that before we go into discussion on it?
No, this is correction.
This is correction.
Well, he made a motion to approve it, and
Yeah, she seconded it.
No,
oh, did you?
I did not second it. I said I had some correction.
Well, look at that, and what is it?
Someone second it, so we can discuss it.
Yeah, you can do it both ways. The easiest way is to have somebody second it and then do it by me.
Okay,
I second
second.
it,
Okay, okay, second, and then I have some correction.
Okay,
I want, going in the minute, Ms. Brown Crouch asked Mr. Wise when he would respond to the chief request. Mr. Wise stated he would do it the next day. However, he did not respond until the following day. Since he did not respond,
here it is. It is in here. It's on the second page, 10A.
I did not see what I'm telling you.
He went on to say that it is inappropriate to discuss personnel matters in public and that he would send a response
No,
the
no,
next.
no.
He would send a response the next day.
No. When I asked him, Ms. Brown Crouch asked Mr. Wise when he would respond to the chief request. Mr. Wise stated he would do it the next day. However, he did not do it the next day. He did not do it until the following day, which was Wednesday, and that created a problem. I want that in the minutes.
well, that didn't happen.
But then you
That
can see,
happened.
foresee in
But
the
that
future.
didn't, I mean, he took, the minutes only say what happened at that meeting, not what did or didn't happen
Okay,
as a
what I'm
result of
saying
that.
is, he told me at that meeting that he was going to respond the next day.
It's in here. 10A. Mr. Wise stated that he just received the request, and he had not had a chance to respond, and that he would send a response the next day.
Okay, then. That's not what I have.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
What?
what day is this that we're talking about?
We're talking about April 22nd.
Okay, great, thank you.
This right here.
That whole paragraph. So, are there any other corrections for that? Okay, then call for vote. I don't see where that changes are necessary in that. It's in there.
I don't like it.
Well, I'm sorry, but what it
It
happened
does not
is in there.
respond to what I asked.
You can, it cannot be in the minutes of what did or didn't happen as a result of this conversation. The only thing that we can put in the minutes is what actually happened at the meeting. And at the meeting, you requested it and he stated it. Whether it happened or not, we can't put that in the minutes.
So Chair, I have the suggestion, maybe helpful, that Commissioner Brown wishes she can request that her complaint now be a matter of record. And at the next meeting, that'll be in the minutes.
Say that again then.
Commissioner Brown Crouch is, in fact, making a complaint now it is part of this meeting, and we'd like it recorded in the minutes of this meeting. I do not have a problem with that. I doubt that anyone else has a problem with it being entered into the minutes.
This,
Yes, I concur.
So it'll be in this minutes, but it's not a correction to these.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
so all in favor of the April the 22nd minutes being approved? Ms. White, do you need to do a roll call on that?
Yes. Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Platt?
Aye.
Commissioner Poston?
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey?
yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. April 22nd. Fire and emergency prep meeting on April 29th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Ms. Woolsey seconded?
I think she should second it
She can
because
have
I
it.
wasn't
She
really
can have
officially
it.
there.
I don't mind.
Go ahead.
Give it to me.
But you're on the committee, you should do it.
Oh, okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Platt?
Aye.
Commissioner Poston?
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the revenue expenditure on May the 6th. This is one of the ones that there was a correction done on. So basically it's swapping the date at the top, right? Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I would like to ask Mrs. McFadden a question about this.
Sure.
We had this, revenue and expenditure committee meeting, is that right? And they gave us a budget, and we just listened to them, but shouldn't we have made a motion to, accept this budget and send it to the commission?
Well, not really. You weren't even you were in a workshop, which is deemed to be something different from a committee meeting.
But then we had a Ways and Means Committee meeting, later.
Same day, or?
A week later. Maybe I'm asking the wrong question at the wrong time, but, it seemed like to me, our Ways and Means meeting, committee meeting, they gave us information about the budget, and, shouldn't we toward the end of that meeting, vote on whether we send this budget on to the full PSB?
Well, we didn't have it on the agenda.
I think Ms. Woolsey's talking about May 13th.
Yeah, May 13th, yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of.
We're still doing May the 6th.
Okay. But think about it until we get there.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and go about this.
Okay, I have a question on it. The, street signs was brought up at that meeting.
May 6th.
Right. You had, yeah, I've got the old
You might not
copy.
have the uncorrected one.
If she didn't know, we provided in the packet. It says, do you see it? It's right in front of you.
Yeah, I thought the ones on the desk were the
That's,
correct.
yes, exactly.
Okay, this is the one from the desk. I don't see anything there.
May 13th. No, she's on
May
May 6th.
13th, Ways and
No,
Means.
you're on, it's on the,
on May 6th.
yeah, it's wrong, Alan, they put it on the 13th by accident. The street signs were not till the 13th.
And if I may, yes, Commissioner Laughlin, it includes me, and that was when I was absent, which does state that I was absent because I was ill, which I certainly was, and yes, but then I apparently, was still here, like somehow, voting.
Oh, it just says you were it says on the corrected one, it says you were.
And I was actually absent, yes, and that's why, it's, that, where you're saying about the, yes, 3C, and Again, there's all of these, they have me listed, but I was not actually, yeah, I was absent, so that's why that is confusing. Because that's what I'm saying, I don't know how I would have been able to actually, you know, it says Mr.
Okay.
Engelmann was absent.
The corrected copy,
Is this one? I'm like, wait, am I looking through? Thought I may have mixed it up, so pardon me if I did.
I'm
No,
not
and
sure
that's
maybe
it.
you put-
Six.
okay, you're looking for one that looks like this.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, okay, perfect, thank you, so I cut the stack mixed a little bit. Thank you.
You hang on, I
This
want
point,
one,
do I have
one
to
straight
correct
copy.
it?
Yes, everyone does. It's right here on the, I'm not sure if you missed it, but let me give you these, so you.
Thank you.
Just making printing a mixed part of the stack. That's wonderful.
I'll be happy when we get past budget, cause I'm tired of paperwork. My poor nightstand can't take it.
Too much paperwork. Okay, so we got it straight now, so,
Okay, so I think May sixth is ready to vote.
okay.
May sixth, that's what vote.
Who made the motion? to
Mr.
approve?
Platt moved, Ms. Brown Crouch seconded. Ready for the roll call? Commissioner Brown
Yes.
Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes,
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
okay. And the last one is Ways and Means for May the 13th.
So moved.
I'll second it since somebody else.
Okay. Any discussion? We got that one corrected?
Isn't that the one you want to ask about the street signs?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yes. On the street signs, it was brought up.
And I think you can say we want to do this, then go back and put your ordinance, right? Is that what you're saying? Because we had a letter from the mayor saying they want to take over street signs. So we voted to let them do that, but you're still saying we need to do an ordinance. But maybe we should check with our attorney.
Yeah, and be sure that you have given yourself the maximum level of protection and you're not running afoul of whatever E911, however it operates in Charleston County.
Yeah. Well, apparently we got an email from Charleston County, they said they thought they were doing it anyway, so.
So that's all three.
Maybe everybody's doing it?
Okay, so that needs to be on the agenda as an ordinance for the June the 24th meeting. June the 24th.
And that means you have to get together with the town and craft an ordinance that match.
Right. And you put a note to make sure that that goes on the agenda for the 24th.
Street signs,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
King.
And that will be the first reading of that ordinance on June 24th? Just for clarification.
Yes, that will
It was
be the
voiced.
first reading for it. Okay. If Mr. Wise isn't here,
Mr. Laughlin,
oh,
you
we
have
need to
motion
do a
on
vote
this.
on that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes,
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
certainly hope so. Okay, Mr. Wise is not here tonight, he is ill. Ms. King, is there gonna be somebody doing Mr. Wise's?
I don't have that information, but I can certainly say that the numbers are in line and we can reduce spending to control the cost at the end of the year. but I don't have his report for me to read all of them.
Okay, it must have been that food he got up in Columbia that was making him ill. I do have a couple of questions, but they will have to be deferred to next month.
There's some, the department heads are here, I don't know if they can answer those questions, depending on what it is, or.
Well, one of them is a financial question, so I can ask you. On year-to-date, the third line item down, April 18 is showing 6.8 million, and this year it's showing almost 8.5 million. Is that because of the Folly Beach and the city of Charleston late payment trying to get to us?
That's what I would assume right off, I'd have to go back and look at some things in the morning, but yes.
The third line down on the first page.
Right, I see that, yeah.
The other questions I had to wait. Anybody have any questions that we need to give to Mr. Wise? And we'll get them answered back to you.
Just a question, just a suggestion, Mr. Chair, that, have a policy in effect that, in the event of, manager being unavailable, or there's going to be sick time to time, that, someone be ready, for example, CFO to pick up what you said.
I thought that's what usually happens, but maybe you got sick at the last minute.
We could certainly, see if we can work it into the arrangements. Do we need to have a policy on that? I don't think,
Doesn't happen very often.
no, it doesn't.
He sent us,
Or not a formal policy, I guess, maybe just an understanding.
I think that would be a good idea.
So if the
Okay.
CFO would sit in, that's the substitute.
but like you said, the departments heads are here, if they have anything, you could ask them if they have anything interesting to report.
Okay, Walter, do you have anything for solid waste that you'd like to make sure that the, oh, yes, there is one thing that's gonna be coming up later in the meeting. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. As part of the manager's report, could you tell us a little bit about,
A loader?
Yeah, I gave you all a packet, I don't know if you wanna follow along real quick, on the bottom it says emergency justification down there. I'm just gonna give you the brief synopsis. We had a 2007 case loader go down about 2 months ago. It's in need of a $25,000 repair, and me and Steve, the fleet director, we don't really think that's a wise decision to invest any more money in that machine. We hate to put a $25,000 front end in it and then get it back in a month later, the motor blows. So the machine has over 20,000 service hours on it. It's definitely exceeded its life expectancy, and that's not an accurate hour. There was, about a year and a half worth ran without, where the hours weren't working properly, so there's probably another 5,000 or 6,000 hours on it, besides what we have here. We're requesting emergency funding because we have a spare unit that's very unreliable. It's a unit that we bought, it was a smaller unit. We've had a lot of issues with it. There's a lot of manufacturer issues with it that we can't really control. I mean, I wasn't, not to shuck responsibility, but I wasn't here when they bought that machine. It was a smaller loader than what we're used to, and we've had a lot of issues with it, and Steve can attest to.
We've had a lot of issues with it, so has the city. They got rid of that small unit too. It's, it's living on time.
The city got rid of all their small units because they were having the same exact issue we were.
What brand is that?
It's a case loader. Right. It was a small loader. It wasn't meant to take one of them that way as much as a big one could take it a little bit more.
is there a trade-in value on the one
Yes.
that's been rid of?
If you look in, first, pardon me, this was kind of put together at the last minute. I apologize if it's hard to follow. If you see on page 22, on the back of page 2, you'll see we've gotten a quote from Caterpillar Blanchard Machinery. You can see the original price is $161,800. You knock $40,000 off for state contract pricing, that's what we all get as municipalities. They added another discount. We and Steve really believe that they're really trying to get our business, so they're giving us a good deal here. The big winner here is they're gonna give us $24,000 for the machine that's currently down for a broken piece of machinery. For a trade-in, they're gonna give us $24,000. So the bottom line price, the funding we're looking for, I think is 101 and some change, I believe. And also attached here is some financing terms that James took the liberty to get for us from BB&T. And if you look on the back page, again, I'm sorry, there's a bunch of loan information in here. I think is what the first payments are and what we're gonna be doing, how long it's gonna take to pay it off, right? The payment schedule.
Right.
It's the back page that I'd like you to look at, if you don't mind. If we get the new machine, this would be the current, this would be our current inventory of equipment. It should look like this, it's an Excel spreadsheet. You've got the 885, which is the case front unloader. We're gonna trade that in. We're gonna get $24,000 from Matthew Cat. That would leave us with a 922, which is the small machine. We're gonna put that in reserve. We're not gonna get rid of it. We're gonna put it on the reserve line. So that would leave us the 2015 that we have as frontline equipment. We'll also get rid of our rear steer. I don't know if you've all ever seen that piece of equipment out there that drives backwards. Looks like the guy's driving in reverse. Also, was not here when that was purchased. Needs to go. The city had 6 of them, they got rid of all of them. I'd love to give you a projected cost on that, but I don't wanna, I'm a little leery to do that. I know the city got rid of all their rear steers, and they just got $55,000 for one that was the same year as ours, except ours is in better shape. So, don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's what we're gonna get to put back into the coffers. We're also not selling that till July until we make the last payment on it. Once we receive title, I've already spoken to Mr. Game, and we're gonna get rid of it.
So if we do this tonight, we'll have a new loader, two of them that we're going to continue with, and a spare.
Yes, and that will leave all our fleet, and that'll leave our loader fleet in very good shape. We'll have some, and you know, those, especially during storm debris pickup, those are our, that's our key equipment out there.
Okay.
But I appreciate you taking the time to
This will take care of the question and answer period once it's brought up on the next thing. Mr. Dean, do you have anything that needs to be brought up?
Oh, I back in 100%. We've already rebuilt that front axle once before.
Can you please come up front so we,
I'm 100% behind Walter. We've already rebuilt that front axle once. It's hard to put money back into that equipment when it wore out. It's got over 20,000 hours. That's a lot of piece of equipment.
And it is a Caterpillar, so you.
Well, the one now is a Caterpillar, right?
So you're gonna have problems. You'd have to get the warehouse, the home office to do some of this stuff, right?
Some of that, if we get the cab or the case.
What is the one now that's broken down?
It's a case that's at cat right now.
Oh, okay.
We're having service problems with the case locally, so we have to take it to cab. That's another issue.
And if you don't mind, if I could just, one point I want to make is, me and Steve requested 3 prices from Caterpillar, Case, and John Deere, and Caterpillar was the only one that responded. So that's, they're the only ones that wanted to do any business with us.
And Mount Pleasant's been using them, we went over and talked to them, they love them, they had no problems with them. So that's good.
Do you have anything in the fire department that needs to be brought up?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The reason this was brought up, this resolution follows our procurement ordinance that this body approved, and so this follows our emergency justification for procurement of this type item. Yes, sir.
Any other departments back there? Anything you want to bring up?
Get shy, Jeff.
On the wastewater ordinance.
As the departmental, part of the department.
Mr.
voted in the past to go ahead and get a professional company to come in and do a rate study, which they did. And the recommendation was put into the budget by the rate study professionals. And we're going on with what they recommend that we do for wastewater.
I'd like to ask, in that study, we're gonna have quite a bit of extra money if we do it what they say, and do we really need to do that? I don't want us to have a deficit, but I don't want us to bring in too much money, or charge people so much that we're making money.
We're not. It's the recommendation of the study to do that.
But the study says we're gonna have, like $300,000 extra if we, increase the rates.
That's if everything goes as planned and there's no hiccups. And can't guarantee any of that.
I feel like that's too much, and, we'll go over that when we come to that part.
The only thing that bothers me with that is that's the equivalent of 3 mil, and we're trying not to raise the mills this year, and that's the equivalent of 3 mil. I was telling them the other day, I'm one of those that I always have the high-end sewer bill all the time because I water my yard and put water in the pool. But, you know, it kills me from March until September to be paying $100 a month for sewer.
That's the rates, the CWS rates have gone up, and they continue to go up, which is our transportation fee that we have to pay them for transporting and treating our sewer. We're just trying to stay in line with what's going down the other end of these.
So that's the equivalent of a 20% increase. I didn't get a 20% increase in my Social Security or federal retirement this year.
You know, I oppose, some of those increases because we have to look at our constituents. We gotta look, there are people, senior citizens who live in a fixed income. So we gotta keep all those things in mind there. Single families, and then people, you know, some of the rate is just, we need to do something about it. So, I'm not happy with what we have presented because it's raising people's rate and we've gotten complaints.
That was a recommendation from.
Recommendation, but we don't have to accept a recommendation when it's gonna hurt our constituents. Because we, okay. So I'd like to, us to do something about it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Did you get what I said?
Yes,
I had
ma'am.
a sidebar over there while I was talking.
Yes, ma'am, I heard you. You're against any of the increases.
Okay.
So we go to, number 7, back to the case letter.
Well, I just want to see, is there anything else that we need to bring up to Mr. Wise that we can report back to him before we get off the management report?
I personally like it having the department heads tell their stories.
Yeah, but we had from the horses. I like hearing from the department.
No, we put them on the spot. We forgot Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come forward.
Yes, sir. I did my research on the PIVA state health plan and the retiree our responsibility as far as offering retiree insurance to our retirees. And basically, it says that we have to follow the plan design of the state health plan, which is employees and retiree coverage. We do not have to fund the plan the way that our current policy that was approved by the commission states.
which is following the state employee funding program. And I have all of that in this paperwork for you to review and look at, so that you'll see that there is plenty of substantiation for what I'm saying.
Not being an insurance person, I would personally love to see something with some numbers and a couple of different options. Like,
Absolutely, that is what we had talked about doing at the expense workshop, was that we were going to create some scenarios, submit them to the actuary, for them to come up with numbers for us, so that we could propose those for you.
okay,
And then we made the comment that we would have Mr. Hancock come back at some point and dive deeper into some of those actions once we get those numbers back.
oh yeah, he's our go-to man. But, can we have some,
I do have in that packet the rates that the current retirees are paying and what the employer is paying. It's further towards the back.
yeah, I see. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Okay, item number 7, resolution 1904, approving the finance attorney to replace solid waste unit 885. That's what Mr. Jasmine was talking about earlier. This is the,
I make a motion, we approve the financing and replacement of the loader.
Second.
okay, this is
Is that,
the,
we do that?
Yes, you do, thank you.
Number 7?
double checking to make sure this is the which I have. Any discussion other than what Mr. Jasmine has already done? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there's no doubt in my mind that this equipment is needed, that it's an emergency situation. However, rather than going into debt for it, isn't this what the
Rainy day.
reserve fund and rainy day fund does? That's just paying for it.
We got $1 million
cash.
sitting in the pot. We have $1 million sitting there, I believe, is that right?
So we still have about 900,000 after bought this.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
We need CFO input on this,
It's
sir.
just better to do the terms and the payments. I mean, it's under warranty for a number of years, and the terms and payments are, it's a good deal for the district to do it that way. Whether take it out of rainy day, but that's y'all's
How much-
decision to do that.
The interest on the bank compared to the interest we sit and got money collecting, what's the difference there? What is?
I would have to go back and look at that and get your hands on that, but I think this was 3.14, is that correct on the paperwork you have?
Probably that. Are we making any
I
better
think it was
interest on
5 years.
it?
Yes. 5 year, 3.14. And what are we doing in the bank?
I'd have to go look and get those exact numbers. We send Mr.
Is
Wise a
it more
report
than
every month, so
3.14?
I could certainly send you that in the morning. We give him a monthly report on what our interest rates are.
Would we get the same terms as far as the 5-year warranty and all like that if we did the tag purchase?
I would believe so, is that correct?
Yes, that's included in the price, and yes, you still get the same warranty terms.
Does this violate any of our?
No, I'm not opposed to spending that rate if I'm not.
No, I'm saying,
Small vote.
does it violate any of our rules about keeping a certain amount of money in?
Not at this point, no, sir. And I believe, if Walter, correct me wrong, I think that was our first conversation with Mr. Wise, was to spend that money and get permission from the commission, is that correct?
Yes, it was.
So that was our first recommendation from me to Walter, to Mr. Wise. So I'm not opposed to that, but I'm also not opposed to financing, but it's your decision.
Let's make a motion.
Well, we have to clear this, we can make an amendment to this motion, but we can't make a new motion.
If I could, if I might,
Let's make a,
James, if the sale of that, would you be able to put the sale of the real estate back in that fund? Or
Do
is
we
that
have a
gonna be
second to
over in
the
general
amendment,
fund?
to the amendment?
I seconded it.
I didn't hear.
That's it.
Are they gonna cut us a check for that?
He's talking about resolution number 1904, we're gonna finance. She made the motion and I seconded it, called it amendment.
Well, we're discussing that, so
With
we
the
can,
resolution, we could just make it sometime reading.
We could.
Okay, so we have a motion amendment, to change this from a finance to a rainy day cap fund.
no, well, I think I made a motion just to do this now.
Right, but he did the amendment to, Mr. Platt did the amendment to change
Well, we
it.
haven't voted on the actual
I think we just,
motion yet before you
I
start
think we
amending.
just need to vote this up or down and then.
We have the motion, and then Mr. Platt did an amendment to the motion to use rainy day funds instead of the financing on this. So we need to do the amendment first.
Okay, because I thought he just posed the question, isn't that what that money was for? I didn't hear him say, I want to make an
Exactly.
amendment to the motion.
But wouldn't she have to approve his amendment?
Yeah, okay, is that, what do you think, Mrs. Madden?
okay, we got the call.
Well, hold on, so, no, we would vote on the amendment. And then after that, we would vote on the amended motion. So if Mr. Platt changes it from a finance, Mr. Platt's amendment changes it from a financed purchase to a rainy day fund purchase. And if that's the case, then we vote on the total motion, which is to authorize the funds to pay for it.
But wouldn't she have to approve his amendment to her
No.
motion?
Not if we do the change to,
I'm pretty sure we do, don't we?
I'm not asking for a amendment,
you wanna do it as a friendly?
You can vote it up or you can vote it down.
Well, I think it's a good motion, but
Okay, in that case,
Let's have,
the motion that we're gonna vote on is to change the funding as it was presented to us from a financed to a rainy day fund payment.
no discussion on that. Can there be a discussion on the amendment?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just to underscore how significant my proposal is, as you know, I've always considered the reserve and the rainy day fund are sacrosanct. But again, I'm convinced this emergency situation and using rainy day funds is entirely warranted.
Okay. Anybody else?
We're voting on the amendment.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
yes.
Commissioner Engelmann?
yes.
Commissioner Laughlin?
Yes?
Commissioner Platt?
Aye.
Commissioner Colston?
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey?
Yes.
Okay, so now, finance, the motion for a financed purchase, emergency purchase of a front-end loader has been changed from a financed one to one coming straight out of capital equipment, the rainy day fund. Do we have any discussion of that?
I think so. Wonderful. Idea.
Okay? No other discussion?
She's trying to figure out what she's gonna do.
So now you're all voting on resolution number 1904?
That's been amended.
Amended motion.
To remove
says
the
that it's a
finance.
direct purchase instead of a finance.
So,
Did that keep this the same document?
well, basically, we're just taking out the finance
We
part.
won't sign that document.
Don't sign it.
Yeah, we won't sign that document.
So we're not
That was the
voting on the
finance, right?
resolution.
Yeah.
We just take that.
Because it'll still be the resolution, no, same resolution number.
So we're just making a resolution to pay cash for.
So this resolution is still, it's null and void?
That resolution ties to the financing of the
Right,
DOT,
this is the
so
financing.
I don't think
Okay,
you're,
so then we
correct.
have to,
we're not gonna finance, we're gonna pay cash, so.
So this is
Okay,
void.
so we would,
So this
the
is,
thing to do would be to vote down this resolution. And we've already approved the direct purchase. Is this convoluted
I don't
enough for
know.
you?
I'm looking at this,
The easiest way for y'all to understand what you've done is to consider a motion to pay cash as a motion to strike the financing resolution. Same thing this gentleman here is couching it as in his mind. So in essence, it's a motion to strike this one page from the material provided to you.
Thank you.
And you want to approve the purchase. The easiest thing is, you've still got to approve the purchase. You're just, if you're thinking about your title, you're striking approve the financing terms. And just say it's a cash term to replace,
To approve the emergency justification
yeah,
form,
to
I
approve
think that's the
the,
form, yeah.
So what we're doing is we're vetting this one completely.
you're not gonna sign it, exactly like your CFO said.
Cause that would go to the bank as a signature, once that's signed, we're not doing that, right?
How, all right, how do you want us to word this motion?
I think like she just said, we're gonna pass a motion to approve a cash purchase based on the emergency justification form, which I think is this page 1.
Instead of
Right, financing,
this motion.
instead of that resolution.
Okay, so, that,
If not, she's next door to me, we'll get it.
don't make it right, okay?
No.
call the roll.
Commissioner, who made the motion?
Mr. Platt, no.
I can't.
Now, did you think if paying cash for it, they wouldn't change the price any?
I highly doubt it. We get a great price as
State
it was.
contract is pretty much.
And bottom line, for what we're getting for that broken piece of machinery, I don't really wanna haggle. So,
The dealership doesn't care as long as they get their money, they don't care how we're financing,
Yeah,
or
they
paying
don't-
cash, or what we're
It's not
doing.
gonna be
We do
a
that as a
difference at
separate
this
deal.
point. Yeah, I agree with James, I don't think it's gonna.
Okay, Tamara,
Okay, can I clarify who made the motion and seconded?
I did, and Clifford seconded.
Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin?
oh yeah.
Commissioner Platt?
Aye.
Commissioner Polson?
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And you have to notice that it's a resolution, we don't have to do it a second time. Okay, number 8, ordinance 2019-01, wastewater collection system use and rate ordinance.
I'd like to make amendments to that.
We have to put it online first before we can amend it. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion for discussion.
Who's the second?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, I feel like this is a little bit high. Our rate study, and to let everybody know, we're now in the hole of $83,000. Is that for a year? According to the rate, existing rates?
Yeah, we'll do that document to verify that.
Yeah, this is what they gave us.
Right, those were his
Those
numbers,
red,
but right.
that red number's not good, is it?
I'm not sure, what I have to verify
It's
this number.
$83,000 that we're losing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't verify on here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
So
what.
we're losing money in this department, which isn't good. And so we all agree we need to increase a little bit. But I think the increase was too much. So we'll be like 4% over what we were taking in. Mr. Hancock, do you have any, you're looking at it too, aren't you?
I've looked at that extensively. Ms. Engelmann
Ms. Woolsey.
Ms. Engelmann.
I think,
Ms. Woolsey and Ms. Engelmann.
I have looked at that, and I would like to offer a little bit of clarity and a word of caution. I, not too long ago, was in a seat exactly like yours on the Public Service Commission. And one thing I learned very quick is that when we borrowed money, we weren't in control of a lot anymore. We were dictated to what we could do and what we couldn't do. Part of that was rates. And you have revenue bonds that come with covenants. And you have to maintain certain ratios. You have to maintain certain debt service ratios. In other words, your net operating income less depreciation expense has to be 1.2 times. Okay? In addition to that, you also have to fund sinking funds, in other words, provide debt service reserves. The only way to do that is generate cash through the system. And what your rate study professional did, we followed their work before. These projections allow you to meet those debt service covenants and allow you to meet the covenants of padding or filling up your debt service reserve funds that are required under your bond covenants. Now, I hate the idea of utility cost being any more than they actually have to be. But if you borrowed money, you've made promises to maintain these ratios. And then if you come in default of those bondholders have remedies that they can potentially exercise. So, when giving thought to changing rates, I would strongly encourage you to rerun these numbers and make sure your new projected numbers don't put you in peril. That's not what you want to do. That's why you're seeing the excess there. You have to maintain those cash flow coverage ratios, and you have to pad those debt service reserve funds. They make you accumulate cash. It's what you sign on to do with your bonds. Clear? Any questions?
Yeah, but we can't do it on the back of poor people, you know, who can't afford to pay those increases. I mean, we got to keep in mind that everybody can't pay. And we have to look out for everybody, all of the taxpayers. We gotta look out. Some can pay, some can't, so we cannot, I'm not willing to put the burdens on the back of a taxpayer.
Mr. Brian Crouch, I couldn't agree with you more as far as my opinion of having to do that. But this body made a promise to the bondholders, and legally, that promise comes first. Counsel?
I'm not gonna dispute, but my feeling is still the same. I got to look out for the taxpayer. For the taxpayer now.
Well, can I provide any more clarity or any more questions on that?
Thank you.
If you would, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so
We did a schedule, and I'll be glad to send this to all y'all in the morning if you want. In August of '94 was our first rate increase. We didn't do another one until July of 2011. We went 17 years. Part of this is catch up from that 17 years of no rate increases. And we did another one July of 13, September of 16, July of 17, and now the proposed October. And it's a 53-cent increase this year. And over the 4 or 5 years, it's 20%, yes it is, but it's $4.15 over
that's
5 years.
right now, that's 53 cents per 100 CFM, right?
And just like we did, right, just like we did with the millage on the $350,000 house, we took 8 CCS, which is typical resident. We did the base rate volumetric. Currently, the bill would be $57.21. Under these new proposed rates, the bill is $59.50. So you're looking at a little over $2 total on an average bill for a resident. Cover the needs and costs of our system. That's what Jeff was alluding to when he was in here. And I'll be glad to send you out in the morning if you'd like.
I don't
Except for-
disagree with him.
Except for Commissioner England who waters the yard.
Yeah, I don't
I don't know if
disagree
she was
with
at the
him.
meeting, but we have an irrigation meter. I think y'all propose to put that on our website where that will reduce those costs. You can go get an irrigation meter.
Yeah.
So, and that all comes through CWS. I think that was discussed here at a meeting. a month
We
or so
talked
ago.
about it,
Never
nothing
got
was
that
decided.
information, wasn't.
You know, my thing is, my bill will go from $80 minor dollars to $100. And you know, I have three.
And so the flip side of that, it is capped at $87.33 currently. But if you were billed at that normal rate, your bill may be $150, $200 if we didn't have a cap. So we have a cap that benefits you of dumping that water into the
Yeah.
sewer system.
But I just see it just nonstop barrel. I have 3 cars, all my taxes went up on my car.
But this has nothing to do with taxes, this is all wastewater rates, this does not have anything to do with the tax side. This is the system generator rate set by the,
But I paid my water bill today, $100. Paid my sewer bill today, $80-something.
Commissioner Share.
But starting in July, it'll be over
Point
$100.
of order, we need to move along on this, so.
I would like one comment though, if this, this is a 5-year projection, if we're dealing with this year, then can we not ask the rate study people to take into consideration the legalities of which you brought up on the terms of what we borrowed the money to move us past that year to see if they can reconfigure the next 4 years, just so that we can get through this year?
they did include all that and everything, and in our proposed future projects, they've included all that, it's a detailed study. You guys approved it, and it was about a $30,000 study that we paid for.
But you were talking about the irrigation meter for the CWS, okay? You know, I just happened to break my neck in March, I didn't plan it on that month, it
Sure,
just
sure.
happened. But I missed that, so do they come put a meter on my house?
Is Jeff still in here?
Yes.
Maybe you can answer that?
Yes, you can request that through CWS and they'll come out and install an irrigation meter that where you watering your lawn and all of that will go through that separate meter and not through your meter that does go into the sewer system.
Commissioner Chair, while we're order, we're not talking about irrigation.
I was going to ask, yes, please do be sure to submit all of these numbers and as much detail as possible that you can include so that we have this, we can reflect, we can go back, we can all go forward with it from there. But yes, having this in front of us would make it a lot easier.
Yes, and I apologize for missing this in March, you know, like I said, I couldn't pick a time to break my neck. But my thing is, if I didn't get this information at some point, I need this information. You want me to vote on your budget, and I'm not thrilled or happy with this.
Call the vote.
I don't think we're ready to finish discussing this.
Okay.
I was gonna ask, I found I can't find it, the new connection fees to be, high.
So what we did there is David Hoffman, the Director of Wastewater Services, Jeff was involved, and Customer Service Supervisor Joanne and myself sat down, went over the connection fees and the fees and charges below. We compared on the North Charleston Sewer District, CWS, and made some adjustments there to be in line with what they charge. And so those ones that you see under connection fees, one of them's a new fee that we talked about last week. I think everybody was in agreement with that tap inspection fee. The 5 below there, tap inspection service connection transfers are paid by developers.
Okay, hold on.
Well, I'm very concerned about existing homeowners who, because their septic tank has failed, has to connect, and I think that,
Commissioner,
the,
hold on just a minute. I'm gonna refer this to the wastewater committee, asking them to have a meeting between now and the time of our next general meeting. And, we will bring it up again, but I'm gonna refer this to the wastewater
you
committee.
don't have the authority to do that,
Yes,
am I
ma'am,
right?
I do.
I'm asking Ms. Bad. It's on the floor and we're voting on it, and we have to vote this before committee, am I right?
I can't remember whether y'all have a special rule in your ordinance about that or not. If you have no special rules, then there needs to be a motion to refer. It needs a second. It's debatable as well. And,
But we have a motion on the floor right now, it's been seconded, we've got to vote on it.
you have a motion to, it was the motion to adopt, which you made saying you wanted to amend. No amendment has yet been made.
Yes.
I think the chair is thinking that the discussion might be more efficient at a different time than tonight, given the hour. But that is up to y'all.
We have a lot more to do tonight, and I would like to get on with this meeting, so we put this to the committee, have a committee meeting, have their committee's recommendation come out
Well,
at
I
the
think
next
we ought to
general
vote it down, and then we can vote to have it in the committee. Is that,
That's illogical.
I'm saying,
in a parliamentary sense, that's illogical. If you
Okay.
vote it down, you've got nothing left to refer.
okay. And I don't know what to
So,
If the chair treats his own motion as a motion to refer, does he have a second?
I second it.
So now you have a second for the motion to refer,
Okay.
and y'all either adopt that or reject it.
it's like
Motion is to refer the ordinance to
wastewater committee.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
No.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
No.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're gonna refer this to the wastewater committee, with a request for a direction for a meeting before our next general meeting.
You're the chair, you can certainly set the meeting.
Okay, but I thought the chairman of the wastewater, that would be me, that's the meeting.
Okay.
With a request of the wastewater committee before the next general meeting.
All right.
Commissioner Chair Laughlin, I'd like to make a motion for a 5-minute recess, just in case anybody has to go to the restroom, but we do have, well, still 8 more items to go, and it's gonna be a long. Do you want 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
10 minutes, considering the amount of people.
I make a motion that we have a 10-minute recess in between these items, so that, people can take care of personal affairs.
I second.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then adjournment.
Can we do something here and here?
This will take a long time.
Meredith is in the restroom, sir.
He's gonna bring that down.
It's gonna be a while.
He's beeping all the way through it.
Okay. Okay. Sure, sure.
No.
Did you call on it?
Yes.
Okay, we're calling the meeting back to order. There's been a lot of,
On your
I
commissioners.
know, there's been a lot of discussion going on. And unless we make some major adjustments in things that are going on right now, we won't be able to meet our timeframes to work with. With that in mind, I move that we reconsider the deferral of the, let me find the right one. Wastewater collection system and rate ordinance, 2019-001. And put this back on the, table for tonight. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to discuss this. What we have the power to do is, we can pass this ordinance, and then my wastewater committee can go back over it and discuss it and look at it. And then if we feel like we can reduce some of this, we will, decide that at the meeting, and we'll bring it back to this committee, bring it back to the commission and say, we wanna amend this ordinance and do blah, blah, blah. And, that might take place maybe a month or two from now. And then we can amend it and change it. We just need to pass it now so we can get to the other part of the budget, because they're connected. And I will be having a meeting, I don't know when, and we will go over this with the finance people and everybody else, and see what we can do to bring this down. But for the average homeowner, it's not that bad. My main concern is connecting existing homeowners who have failed sewer. The cost is outrageous, I think. A lot of people couldn't afford it. And we can look at other things, issues too, and decide what we want to do. But we want to make sure our bondholders are happy, like you said. So I think we should just go ahead and pass it, and then the committee, wastewater committee will get together and we'll look at ways to reduce it, and we'll bring that back to you all, and we can amend this to reduce it. And this won't go into effect till July. October anyway, so it won't even go into effect. So we got time, got a little working room, a little wiggle room there.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so the ordinance is now back on the agenda, and we hear a motion to approve 2019-01.
I make a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to number 9, which is ordinance 2019-02, the budget, to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. This is the first reading on it. We've had a minor public hearing about it. Do I hear a motion?
I guess I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one thing. I spoke with Commissioner Wilson about, didn't you talk about rolling the mills back?
Yeah, and so I'd like to amend this budget here. Am I doing it the right, Mr. McFadden? Yes, okay. I passed out to many of you my amendments to the budget. Let's
Question.
start with one.
We're doing, what, 10 or 12 amendments?
Gosh, I think there's just 7, 8, 9.
Okay. Again, before we start going into lengthy discussions on all of this, looking at the time frame that we're working with, I would like to defer this and assign it to the Ways and Means Committee, and have a special meeting of the Ways and Means Committee where we will be able to discuss all of these amendments. And so I would like to request that the amendments be withdrawn at this meeting, and we will set up a special Ways and Means Committee between now and the next general meeting.
Some of these are pretty straightforward. Y'all have been sitting here looking at them all night, I hope. I think that's going to be a time we don't have.
Just to hold those as amendments, and we discuss it at the Ways and Means Committee?
No, I think we should do it right here now, get it over with.
Right, I don't wanna see this anymore, let's do it now.
Do we have specific numbers on?
Yes, I've got some numbers here.
Some numbers, have we looked at how each one of these amendments are going to affect the budget? How each one of these amendments are going to, have we researched it out?
We've got some right here.
I'm going to make copies.
How many do you need? There's some copies
I
right here.
have, that copy I had the, my little cheat sheet on it that had the numbers on it.
Relevant, and perhaps this would be with Commissioner Wilson, if I may. I think it was a couple weeks ago, Commissioner Wilson sent an email to the whole commission, which I think you proposed a 2 millage decrease, And I responded that, I agreed that especially the way that the constituents spoke out in the last election, and there was no decrease in proposal this year, which in fact repeated the unacceptable budget increase that's unacceptable for Stanford's constituents. But I thought maybe 2 mills was maybe more than could be handled, and I suggested at least a token decrease of 1 mil, a half mil. But what would you think about, just to simplify, so we can move on, just to make your amendment, just simply, in the first one, move to amend the 2020 budget to reduce the bond millage by 2 mils, period, and leave it up to staff to see how to achieve that.
But we still couldn't vote on it tonight without those changes, am I thinking that right?
Well, the way it was quoted was that if it's anything over a mill, it would have to go through at least 2 readings, is that not
Well,
correct?
that's
Increase.
Yeah, so give them out, yeah.
Oh, that's an increase, not a decrease?
Yeah,
So
you
it doesn't
can
go both
decrease,
ways?
nobody cares, but
Okay,
increase,
just checking,
they.
wanna make sure.
I would like some input from finance before we.
I would just like the opportunity, since I just got this, to run those numbers, run it through our financial advisor. We're going out for a GO bond on the fire station, this will affect that. It's not possible to reduce the debt service to 0, that's just not even possible. And I can get that writing from our financial, our GO bond. Our S&P outlook is already a negative outlook from prior. We're trying to correct that to have a positive outlook, and any reduction of that is gonna hurt that on our GO bond.
And the only one that gives me a mild heartburn is number 3 with the retiree health insurance.
I just like to have the opportunity to run those numbers and see what comes up. And
I'm fine with everything else.
if we reduce millage, we're gonna have to reduce expenses, and some of these amendments say we're gonna add back the expenses, $200,000 here and there, and we have to have a balanced budget. We can't reduce 2 and 3 mills and not reduce expenses even further. There's some misinformation out there that is not, they're making assumptions on bad information, and that's not the case. We haven't had a chance to run these numbers. And I think in fairness to the office, we should have a chance to do that.
So I would like to, again, to request hold these amendments. We pass the budget first reading as it is tonight, just like we're gonna do with the wastewater study. We, set up a Ways and Means Committee for June the 10th, which is that gonna give you enough time to breathe on these?
That's fine with me, but it's not gonna be 15 days before that public hearing to advertise that June 17th public hearing.
Well, we can still advertise the public hearing.
We advertise by the appropriation. We actually put the physical number in there of what you're appropriating by budget ordinance. And we can't put that in there till these are finalized and y'all make that decision.
Would June the 3rd do it?
Excuse me, I thought we approve our own budget.
You do, but your advertisement that goes in the paper has the actual appropriations in their dollar amount, and those are tied to the actual budget.
Yeah, but if we reduce it, I don't think anybody's gonna be, upset about it.
But we can't advertise numbers $8 million if it's gonna be $7.5 million. We can't advertise the incorrect number that y'all are gonna approve 15 days prior to the public hearing.
I don't think what you're saying is right at all.
It is
if we
right,
re-
and I think
we-
if Mr. Hancock,
If we reduce something,
Oh, hold on,
We got-
Commissioner Wilson, hold on.
we're talking about our ad in the paper for
I
the
know
public
what
hearing.
you're talking about.
Okay.
But this goes back to what I was saying, we just did this with wastewater, we're gonna go ahead and pass it as is tonight. We're gonna make amendments to it at a later time, but we're gonna do our first reading on it tonight.
Yes, sir.
So if we do our first reading on our budget tonight, with the idea that we're gonna make amendments to it and possibly change it between now and the second reading, that meets the criteria as long as we do our time frame appropriately, right? So we have to do it before June the 10th, which leaves us the 3rd through the 7th to do our Ways and Means Committee.
But do 14 second.
We would need,
We need 15 days, it looks more like May 28th to June 1st.
I was gonna say, we need to do the Ways and Means Committee meeting next week, 28th through the 31st, and a call special commission meeting the week after that, somewhere between the 3rd and the 7th. And that gives us our 15 days for our general meeting on the 24th. Did I get the numbers appropriate here?
What are you gonna do in your special meeting?
Well, I hope
Well,
that the staff has a copy of my motion, which I think most of us pretty much agree about cutting this budget. Do you see what I'm saying, James? We wanna cut this budget.
I understand reducing mills, but that's gonna reduce expenses. We have to have a balanced budget. We can't just drop mills and not reduce expenses for them.
Mr. Chairman, you know, want to be fair to staff, I think also in fairness to the commission, you know, as you noted, that the sentiment, perhaps even consensus for reducing millage is not new. Commissioner Wilson sent out her email about 2 weeks ago, and not only all commissioners, but it was copied, among others, I'm almost certain to you.
Commissioner, but I got directive from Mr. Lawson to have no tax increase. He did not give a directive to have a reduction in increase, in a millage.
I did
I'm
not
sorry,
send
but
that.
did
That's what we went off
you get
of.
Commissioner Woolsey's email?
No,
That's
I
what
did
I'm
not
asking.
send it to
Probably
the
not.
staff. I only sent it to the commissioners. Because I felt like we should discuss it.
Okay, well, but I think I replied to it, and when I replied, I copied senior staff on it. So, did you not even receive mine?
I'm not sure if I have not. I've not seen these amendments, no. So this is
And
nice.
correct-
They saw your thing and wondered what the heck you were talking about, because they did
All
not
right,
see
well,
mine.
hold. Now, the general meeting is not the place to make these kind of discussions. This should be done at the Ways and Means Committee.
We weren't given the opportunity. Nobody says, what do y'all think? And then you give it to us, and then we don't have time to digest it and figure things out. That was just last week.
This is what happens when we wait until May and June to do the
I
budget.
agree with you there.
I agree.
But we weren't given the opportunity, and you throw all these numbers at us, we had to think about that.
Well, this is the reason we make the big bucks, Commissioner Wilson, so
The
that we.
big bucks.
Who makes big bucks?
The big bucks if you and what? Big bucks if you.
Again, we have two choices. We can pass it the way it is right now, with the idea of making amendments, changing it before the second reading. Or
I am not happy with the budget.
then we need to either defer it, which is gonna cause problems, or we need to pass it, which is gonna cause problems. So you have your choice of which is gonna be the worst to deal with.
Can we visit
But
with
this
that?
meeting is not a place to discuss Ways and Means Committee agenda items.
And I feel like the staff is gonna be doing this, but Mrs. McBath, what if we make my motions recommendations for the staff to change the budget?
I think you're hearing your staff say they're already prepared to do that. And you can certainly do that formally, okay? What your staff is saying to you is that most of these amendments are reductions in revenue, and there are no comparable reductions in expenditures. That, and because you must have a balanced budget in South Carolina, he's saying they need to work through where you might balance the expenditures against these reductions. And there's nothing, I mean, if you do this and do nothing to your expenditure side this evening, you're out of whack. And you've got to come back and do something to the expenditure side later. Your chair is correct, you don't have a set of good choices, but you need to make some choices tonight. Do you give it first reading or not? Which you have the right to do. Or do you defer it now and try and work through the proposed amendments and determine which ones, where you're willing to cut to match the revenue cuts.
I think a lot of this doesn't really, there's not really expenditures on here, if you really look at this.
You're reducing, if you don't mind, you're reducing revenue, we're gonna have to reduce expenses that have a balanced budget.
No,
You're
no,
reducing
you don't
millage,
understand.
which I do
Yes,
understand.
Mr. Rockman, I'd like to, Professor Woolsey to explain this to Mr.
I object to that. I mean, I'm the one doing the numbers.
I wanna keep this amongst the seven of us right this minute.
We have a PhD in economics, a college professor who can explain it to
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am, we do. The
Better than
mayor,
I can, or anybody in
the
this
mayor
room.
is not a staff member and is not.
We have the right to bring in other people, don't we, Mrs. McFadden, if we have an expert? We talked to Mr. Hancock, he isn't staff.
You would expect some of that to be on your agenda.
We're bogged down.
We're just
I wanna
asking,
hear
we're just asking to
executive
explain
session.
some
We're bogged
issues
down.
with us.
You know, at the time we took the, you know what if we just vote against the budget period, because there's a lot of, stuff in there that, just doesn't jive. So
Okay.
if we vote the budget down, you gotta do something about it, so why can't we
Then
just?
you're looking at your third bad choice.
Well, it may be a bad choice, but if the budget doesn't fit our needs, what good is it?
Okay, that's an option too. So do I hear a motion? Do we, number one, do we vote it down? Number two, do we vote it as, approve it as it is with the idea we're gonna have a couple of meetings between now and the next reading?
We
Or,
had 15 meetings
excuse
this
me,
week.
I believe I have the floor. Or do we, sit here until 2 o'clock in the morning, making amendments and, coming up with an unbalanced budget? So those are our three options.
Why don't we just vote?
And I move that we go ahead and approve this, and we set up a couple of meetings between now and our next general meeting.
Don't we have enough meetings between now and then?
Oh, yes, ma'am, we have quite a few of them.
I mean, I do have a life. I mean,
So do I.
this time of night it's in my bed.
Well, I haven't heard
I
a
don't
second
think
on
we
my
can make a
motion.
motion when we already have a motion for budget, am I right?
You do, you have a motion to adopt the budget.
Which is what I just said.
There's an amendment, there's also amendment on the floor.
There was never one actually made or seconded.
Ms. Woolsey made the amendment.
No, I haven't,
Who
I
did
didn't,
the
I
second?
have not, I have not.
Not
What did
actually
you think I
made.
said?
To amend the budget for 2019.
Well, yeah, but I
002.
haven't given my amendment, I just, I'm going to.
But we didn't have a haven't gone all the way through it, and it hadn't been a second. So right now, the only motion that's on the floor is to approve first reading on the budget.
I move to amend the 2020 budget to reduce the bond millage by 2 mills and the future, and to reduce future capital leases and the current year surplus in the debt service fund to 0.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that for discussion.
The debt service millage is. as you-
Excuse me,
I'm speaking to it. Okay,
Are you going to be the first speaker?
okay.
All right, go ahead.
Usually, I always thought that the person who
Go
made
ahead.
the motion speaks first, but maybe I'm wrong. The debt service millage is, 9.3. And, revenues, it's all there on y'all's paper there. I believe this will decrease the budget millage by 2 mills. And, what we're doing, capital leases, if I'm correct, is that we are thinking about buying something way in the future and we're saving up money for it. And we don't know what that is we need to buy or how much it costs, but we're gonna save up money for it to buy it. And I just believe, no, let's wait and do a lease purchase payment when we need that equipment or whatever it is we need to buy. And to be saving up money for something we don't even know what it is, I think is just ridiculous. And I think this is an easy no-brainer one right here.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
You know, if we have $1 million in our supposedly big rainy day plan, why don't we pull 300,000 off and you've covered 3 mills right there?
Exactly.
And put that back in the budget to work with. And that way you're not saying, oh, your department can't have full budget, your department. Pull 300,000 out of that, of course, we got another 100,000 tonight, and you've covered over 3 mills right there.
Anybody else? Yes, it was
Yeah,
Platt.
Chair. I'm inclined to vote against the amendment, but would be inclined to vote in favor of the basic motion. That is, you know, to deal with that, which I would probably vote in the negative, just to keep it clean, and if it's not passed, then I guess you could refer it to the Ways and Means Committee for.
We're gonna do that no matter what.
Yeah.
Can I ask the
Well,
CFO what our Moody report is?
in just a minute.
But is that
I'm
clear?
We're talking about this
I'm gonna
motion
take,
right
I'm
now,
gonna
right?
take my turn.
Okay.
Number one, if I remember correctly, I heard something earlier that in this meeting about there's no way that we're gonna get debt service funds to zero. Number two, by doing just what was in the motion, we do not have a line item adjustment to the budget so that we have a balanced budget. And in my mind, if you're gonna make an amendment, you have to make an amendment that has a revenue and an expense side to it, so that you have a, excuse me, sir. I'm gonna vote no to this amendment.
I think I've explained it, what we're doing with this, and there's both sides of this, like you're saying.
I don't see any nickel and dimes and dollars and line items adjustments on it. Because what you're saying is just a general statement, and it's not taken into accounting in any way, shape, or form.
I've got revenue of 1.20, what do you mean nickels and dimes? I got bigger money there. James, you need to get this out and look at what we're looking at.
I've seen that, and that's what I was referring to, is some bad information that's out there and making
What?
assumptions,
What's
not
wrong?
having the all information.
This
Her
is what-
statement is incorrect, that our future capital leases, every one of those is tied to the exact piece of equipment or a project, every one of them. Our Moody's rating and S&P rating is based on paying for a government bond we're gonna put out to pay for the $8.1 million fire station. If that rating goes down, that GO bond will not go through. And our financial advisor told us that if millage drops, that rating will be a negative outlook and will affect our GO bond. And so then we've gotta come up with $8 million to pay for a fire station. Those are facts, those are not incorrect.
We have a call to question on the floor, so we gotta vote now.
Call the question.
Commissioner Brown?
This is
Commissioner
on your
Brown?
amendment.
This is
This is
only
on the
the
amendment.
first one.
So clarify what we're voting on.
We're voting on the
Completely
first
lost.
amendment I made. You want to see that first amendment?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown Proud?
Come back to me, go ahead.
Commissioner Clifford?
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann?
I have no clue where we are, so I'm just gonna say no vote.
Is that a yea or a nay?
Say what?
So we are on number one.
Are we gonna do these one by one
Yes.
at 10 after 9?
That's
Yeah,
what-
one by one.
I tried,
That's what it's.
and you guys overruled me.
Well, I wanna go to executive session, and I don't have,
I tried to
Well, we're in the
shorten
middle
this
of a vote,
meeting.
yes or no?
I'm gonna give a no right now.
Commissioner Laughlin?
No,
Commissioner Platt?
No,
Commissioner Poston?
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown Crouch?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-3.
And I'm not opposed to your motions, right now, I'm just so confused.
okay, we're back to the general motion now of approving the 2019-01, excuse me.
I'd like to amend the budget. I move to amend the 2020 budget to reduce the operating,
I'm gonna call for an
Really,
adjournment if we're gonna do this one by one.
by 1 mil and to reduce the $268,000 increase in funding other post-employment benefits to zero. Mr. Hancock has told us that we are digging ourselves in a hole paying for health insurance for retirees, and it's something we need to look into, but I don't think we need to fund it if we're gonna phase it out. And we already have money in it. I'm just saying this year, we're not gonna fund it. We've already got funds in it, right, Mr. Game?
$100,000 on it.
We got $100,000 in it, and we're gonna look into phasing this out. And I made this minute because Mr. Hancock recommended that we phase that out.
Well, I'm not opposed to amendments. I move we adjourn and reschedule this executive session this week sometime. Only as that one item.
Did I have a second?
Adjournment overrides the other motion, does it?
Adjournment is in there, if y'all adopt.
Are we going to adjourn to executive session to receive legal advice, or are we going to adjourn?
Adjourn and let's reschedule the executive session as that one item only. I'm not opposed to coming back Wednesday or Thursday, but,
Wednesday is intergovernmental, so that will not work.
okay, Thursday, I have no problem.
I'm going out of town, so I won't be here Thursday, so we might as well take care of this tonight, and 'cause we need to take care of this tonight.
I need somebody to second my motion. but-
Second,
We're
okay.
still looking at the adjournment
This is-
motion.
I made the motion, I was just waiting for a second.
We're still waiting for the adjournment motion. Do we have a second on that? I'll second it.
Call the vote on the motion to
Vote
adjourn
on
the meeting.
adjournment.
So is that, yeah, so is that
Are
one
we
line,
adjourning
one
the
item, or is
meeting?
that
Yes, we are adjourning the meeting.
everything
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
for the whole meeting?
No, I think.
Commissioner Clifford,
No.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes?
Commissioner Platt,
No.
Commissioner Poston,
Now,
Commissioner Woolsey.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, while I support Ms. Brown Crouch on this, I got to go. I'm really.
Could I make a motion that we pause here and hear from our attorney? Is she been sitting here?
We have to go to
I'll
executive
make a
session.
motion to go into, can I put a cap on a time to have executive session?
I don't
if
think
all
I don't think
issues are-
it'll take that long.
I second the executive session.
Yes.
I'll make the motion going executive session.
Sandy,
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Is there a
Yes.
limited time on this?
Going to executive session.
Sandy, let's do it.
To have an executive session.
Legal advice.
I'm sorry, what are we voting on?
It was
Is there a
on-
time
it was on
Going
the
to
paper.
executive session. Hold it down.
Yeah.
Going to executive session for legal advice.
Sandy, just a few minutes.
Well, I mean, if we can keep this down,
Call the vote.
because I want to be here.
Right?
All right, we'll be here.
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
Yes.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes?
Commissioner Platt,
Aye.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. We're going to adjourn from executive session. In the executive session, no actions were taken, and as the chair, I will discuss with administration the advice we received. So we're back in regular session.
Mr. Chairman, due to the late hour, I make a motion that we reconvene tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
I second.
Any discussion?
It has to be,
It's all one meeting, we don't have to.
Continuation of this meeting, what we have on our
We're
current
not
agenda.
adjourning this meeting, we're
Recess,
reconvening.
or it's
Recess, a motion to recess until tomorrow night at 7.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, yeah, I think, there would be merit in not having it so soon. The, tone of the open meeting earlier and all, I think
Usually you-
merit and,
Isn't it bad when you do
that,
the-
and I believe that Commissioner Cox indicated that she was not available for me, so.
Well, the one thing that we're running into is constraints on doing the budget. The first reading of the budget. What is our timeframe on that? The 24th of June is supposed to be our second reading.
And there has to be 15 days public notice, right, in between?
Well, we're still
Or
having
June
that at the same
17th.
time.
For a public
right?
hearing.
That's right, June 17th is the public
Or
hearing.
June 17th, public hearing, 15 days prior to that.
Okay.
And yeah, tomorrow is the 21st. If I may say, I believe that the continuation of this meeting a little closer to hand, while it is unfortunate, we all do have schedules that will maybe keep us from coming to a meeting occasionally, but continuing with this so close, it may, I think, be more beneficial personally.
Maybe available Wednesday night.
See, I know,
That's the
intergovernmental
intergovernmental
council,
meeting.
intergovernmental, like I said earlier, it's intergovernmental council, so I am not available,
Oh, I see.
Or the
yes.
Or the 23rd.
I can't be here on the 23rd.
23rd is the.
I can't be here on the
Labor Day
24th.
Council.
I can drag out there.
Yes, I'm available, I'm unavailable on the 23rd either.
Let's just do it tomorrow night, get it over with. Shall we vote on it, or, do we vote on it,
Commissioner
isn't it
Clifford?
bad?
All of them have to vote on it.
Yeah.
I'd like to knock it out tomorrow night because,
Okay.
like we said, I mean,
Commissioner Woolsey?
Tomorrow night's fine with me. I got,
Oh, yes, absolutely, that's what I'm recommending.
I second.
Strongly.
Well,
Yes.
clarification, Mr. Patton, would that be proper, to have a meeting tomorrow night?
Yeah, we're just doing a recess.
Does that suffice? That it's a,
You can either treat it as a motion to recess or the other motion, which is in Robert, but not in your authority, is to fix the time to which to adjourn.
so the motion in effect is to recess until tomorrow night.
okay, it's been seconded. Let's go.
Ms. White, will you call?
Commissioner Brown Crouch,
No.
Commissioner Clifford,
Yes.
Commissioner Engelmann, Commissioner Laughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Platt,
No.
Commissioner Poston,
Yes.
Commissioner Woolsey.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-2.
Okay. We are hereby in recess until 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Thank you everyone for coming.